Hallo, servus, and welcome to my very first vlog. So what's happening right now, we're in my room in Cincinnati, and as you can see behind me, my room is a little bit messy. I'm packing right now. I'm going to Germany tomorrow morning. It's July 23rd today, so I'm leaving the 24th, arriving on the 25th because of the time difference. And I just thought that I will take you guys with me on the journey and also tell you why I'm going to Germany. Obviously, I'm going to visit my friends and family because I haven't seen them since Christmas, but I'm also going to get a green card. Yeah, I'm freaking excited because I've been on an F1 visa, which is the student visa, which is also a good visa, but it expires at some point. And I was actually lucky enough to win the green card lottery last year. So in May 2018, I found out that I won the green card lottery. And it took a long time for this to get processed, and I even thought that it wouldn't even work out for a while. So now I'm actually going to do my interview for the green card in Germany, and I'm going to take you with me on my journey. So right now, this is where I am now. Let's see how I can fit all of this into the suitcase. I don't really know what I'm gonna do in Germany. I'm gonna be there for like 5 weeks. Don't know how the weather is going to be. It can change very quickly in Germany. It's like 34 degrees Celsius right now, so pretty hot, but it's possible that by the end of August it's gonna be like fall weather. So I have to pack summer clothes and fall clothes, and I'm going to be traveling a little bit too, so I kind of like have to pack everything so that I can prepare for any possible situation. Okay, so I sat down very quick and turned the lights on so that I can explain this to you guys. So the green card lottery is officially called the diversity visa lottery, and it's literally a lottery. You take part in it and then there's a chance of winning or not winning. Just because you win the lottery doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to end up getting a green card though. So in my case, I was actually worried, or I wasn't sure if it's actually going to work out in the end, but now I know that it's probably going to work out at this point. It's July 23rd today. My green card interview is in 2 weeks on August 5th. So I'll know after that, and then I'll know for sure when the passport is actually in my mail with the visa stamp in it. But let's back up a little bit. So I'll tell you what the diversity visa lottery is in general. So there are certain countries that are eligible to take part in the lottery, and by countries I mean if you're a citizen of that country. Germany is eligible, but a lot of other countries that already have a lot of citizens as immigrants in the United States, they're not eligible. Like, for example, India isn't eligible. I believe the UK isn't eligible, but this also switches every year. You can look this up online if you're interested in it. If you meet the requirements, which means that you are from an eligible country, you have to have a high school education or a certain amount of years of work experience. I'm not familiar with that one because I do have a 12-year high school education. Those are, I think, all the requirements you have to meet. And then there's a few week-long period every year. I believe it's like 3 or 4 weeks every fall, and that's the entry period. So during that time, you can go online. There is a website. Here's the address for everyone who's interested in it. It's not open right now, but it'll be open in probably October or November. I can look up the dates and also put them right here for the following entry period. So during that period, you just go online to the site and you only have to enter a few pieces of information, like your name. I think it's your passport number. It's your country of birth for sure, or your country of citizenship. Honestly, I think that was pretty much it. So it really only takes a minute or 2 minutes or something like that. It's very, very quick. And then once you've entered the lottery, which a lot of people apparently make mistakes with the entry. For me, since I had already dealt with visa stuff a lot beforehand, I was pretty familiar with how the forms of the United States with visa stuff work, so I apparently didn't make any mistakes. You can also enter the lottery through certain agencies that offer you the service to enter for you, so that there's no way that you're gonna make a mistake. You have to pay money for these agencies though, so it's not really necessary if you just pay attention and Google a little bit. Then you've entered, and then you won't find out whether or not you won until the following spring/summer. So it's usually in May is when they announce the winners. And then you'll check with your confirmation number that you got. You have to go to the website. You have to check whether or not you won. And then in most cases, it'll say, sorry, you didn't win. And in my case, this was May 2018, it said you were randomly selected for the diversity visa lottery, and I was so thrilled because I took part in it in fall 2017. This was when I was here on an internship, and I just took part in it because I was like, it's cool that this exists, who knows, it doesn't hurt if I just take part in it, and I never thought I would win. And every region or every country, I'm not 100% sure about that one, has a different quote. So for countries that already have, or regions that already have a lot of immigrants in the US, the quote of how many winners they draw is a little bit lower than for other regions. For Germany, the chance of winning is about 1%. At least that's what it said when I looked it up most recently. So yeah, I was very, very lucky. And I found out in May 2018, as I said. It is now July 2019. And I entered the lottery in fall 2017. So the whole process still takes a long time. After that, I actually thought that it wasn't going to work out for a while because after you win the lottery, you get a case number. And you only win the lottery for one fiscal year. I won for the fiscal year 2019. So I found out in May 2018. And the fiscal year that I won for started in October 2018 and is still running right now. It's going on until the end of September 2019, which means that I only get the green card if my case gets fully processed by the end of September 2019. If it doesn't, then my win will just expire. It's not going to be valid anymore. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just bad luck. The first step is that you have to submit an official green card application, like a form that officially shows that you want to apply for an immigrant visa. If you don't do anything after you find out that you win, you're not going to get a green card. So that's the first thing you have to do. And then you have to submit a few more documents via email, like a birth certificate, police certificate. If you have kids or are married, you have to submit documents for that, which I didn't have to do in my case. And then once the fiscal year started, they're going to invite people for interviews, which the interview is the very last step of the whole process. And if you are doing well in the interview and nothing's wrong with your case, after that, you're going to be issued the green card. They start doing interviews in October and they go by case number. So they start inviting the people with the lowest case numbers that have previously submitted all the required documents, and then they move their way up. And every month they publish a list of numbers that are current. My number was very, very high. And the previous fiscal year, you can look back into the numbers that were released the previous fiscal year. My number would not have been within that fiscal year. So I would not have even been invited to an interview the year before. When my year started, I watched the numbers every month and they moved up very, very slowly. So I was pretty sure that it wasn't going to work out anyway. Didn't tell a lot of people about it. Didn't really get my hopes up. I mean, I was on a student visa anyway, so it was okay with me. I didn't really worry. But then suddenly in April 2019, the numbers suddenly jumped up all the way and suddenly they announced my number. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even expect this anymore. And so long story short, I then submitted my form, my DS-260, submitted my required documents via email. Because before that, I wasn't sure if I actually wanted to apply for an immigrant visa, because if you do, it's very complicated to get temporary visas in the future. So I was like, if it's not even going to work out, then I'm not going to risk any future visas by submitting my application for an immigrant visa. But then I did in April. Everything got processed really, really fast. And then I was just waiting on my interview invitation, which they sent out twice a month. And I got an interview invitation for August, which is almost last minute because for my fiscal year, the last interviews are going to be in September. So I was lucky. I got my interview for August 5th. I got that invitation mid-June. And my interview is going to be in Germany. So there's two ways to go about it. You can either adjust your status within the US, which takes a little bit longer though, or you can do consular processing and go back to your home country and do the interview and like the whole process there. And that's what I'm gonna do because I wanted to go home anyway. So this was the perfect timing. So I'm flying home tomorrow and I'm gonna stay there until the end of August. Interviews on August 5th in Frankfurt because there's only one place in Germany that does interviews for immigrant visas. And before that, I have to attend a medical examination with a licensed doctor, which there's like I think about 5 doctors in entire Germany that you can go to prove that I'm not sick, that I'm not going to bring any diseases into the US when I immigrate. And then after that, I have the interview. I have to pay another something $300 for visa fees. It works pretty much the same as an interview for a non-immigrant visa, which I've done 3 times already in my life. So it's usually just like a few minutes long at a counter in the embassy. And after the interview, they usually already tell you whether it was approved or not. They keep your passport there. And then it takes like, depending on how busy the season is, takes like a few weeks for them to process everything, and then they're gonna send the passport back to your address in Germany or like in your home country with the visa stamp in it. So hopefully by the end of August, when I booked my flight back to the US, I'm gonna have my passport in the mail with my visa stamp. And then that is not the actual green card, obviously, but it gives me the permission to enter the United States on a green card status. So at immigration, they're gonna see that I'm entering the United States on a green card status for the first time, which means that I'm activating my green card, which you have to do within, I believe, 6 months after it has been issued. You have to make at least 1 trip to the United States, which in my case, I'm gonna keep my place anyway. Like I'm just going on vacation to Germany and returning right back to the States. After that, I'm good to go, and they're gonna send me the actual green card to my US address. And then I'm gonna be a permanent resident, which is really amazing because it gives me a lot of freedom compared to my student visa right now. Because right now, I am on OPT, optional practical training, which is what you can get after you finish a degree in the United States. For most degrees, it's 12 months after graduating, and you're only allowed to work within the field of your degree that you got in the United States. So for me, that's German studies, which means that like my job options are pretty limited. You can only be unemployed for a total of 90 days throughout that time, and you have to report to your previous university where you're working, how much you're working, etc. You have to work at least 20 hours a week, as I said, in jobs or one job that matches your degree. And if you work less than 20 hours a week, that counts as unemployment. So like, you know, it's like very limited. As a permanent resident, I'm gonna be pretty much free. I could be unemployed if I want to, which obviously I don't want to, but I can also just work at a restaurant if I wanted to. I don't have to prove to anyone which jobs I'm working in, which is really amazing. Welcome back. I've been in Germany now for a little bit over a week. I have already attended my medical examinations. Well, it was 1 medical examination and 1 additional X-ray appointment at a different practice. What happened at the medical examination, first of all, insurance doesn't cover that. You have to pay for it yourself. At the doctors in Munich, in Germany, it was about 350 euros in total for like the medical examination, the X-rays, and the lab costs. And I have to say it actually went really, really fast. I expected it to take a lot longer. So I went to the doctors that morning, and it was a really small practice, which I didn't really expect because this is a doctor that has a license from the US government to conduct these medical examinations for US visas. But yeah, it was really small. I didn't have to wait at all. I had to fill out a bunch of forms that included information on my case, like my case number, and also the address that I'm going to be living in the US. For a lot of people who are taking part in the diversity visa program, that's a little bit tricky because they may not know yet where they're going to live. For me, since I have been in the US in the past 3 years, it was a little bit easier because I'm just gonna stay at my place that I've lived at in the past year. And then they took blood and urine. I had to do a vision test. And then a doctor went over my vaccination records and looked if I was missing anything. She asked me about my medical history. And in case you're missing a vaccination, they can just give it to you right then. I was missing one vaccination in total, so like she just gave me that shot very quickly. And she examined my breathing and my stomach for a little bit, but that was super quick. And I have to say, this was a really nice doctor. Everyone at the practice, the assistance people and the doctor knew exactly what they were doing with all the forms and like how to fill it out for the US Consulate in Germany. And it didn't take 3 hours like I read on the internet sometimes, but I'm sure this can definitely differ from practice to practice. But the doctor in Munich, Germany, I have to say, did a really good job on this. Today is Sunday, August 4th. I got up fairly early and I'm about to leave for Frankfurt together with my parents because tomorrow morning is my green card interview at the US Consulate in Frankfurt. So last night I spent my time preparing all my documents, making all the copies. They tell you what to bring, but there's different ways of, for example, how you can prove your financial records, how you can prove your qualification in terms of your education. So in my case, I brought my high school diploma, my Abiturzeugnis in Germany. I'm gonna bring my bachelor's certificate. I'm gonna bring my master's diploma. Probably I'm only gonna need one of those, but just in case, I'm bringing everything I possibly can, because in case they want to see something that I didn't bring, it's going to be all the way in Munich and I'm going to be in Frankfurt, so there's going to be a delay. They will maybe want me to reschedule my interview date, and since it's already August 2019, there's really only 2 more months for my case to get processed before the fiscal year is over and my DV win will expire, if you will. So I really want to make sure that I'm bringing everything they could possibly want to see to my interview tomorrow so that nothing can go wrong, and I hope nothing will go wrong. I brought my passport, my pictures, my birth certificate, police certificate, my proof of financial resources, as I said, proof of education, appointment letter, confirmation of the DS-260, a printout of the travel docs overview page, which a few people told me on the internet that that's going to be required, like just the overview page that says the little number in the upper right corner. I'm not sure if that's really necessary because it didn't say on the official websites, but I brought it anyway. So yeah, I guess I'm going to keep you guys updated after the interview tomorrow. My appointment is at 10:30 in the morning and it shouldn't take too long, probably an hour or 2, but we'll see. So I'll keep you updated. Okay, so I actually took my camera with me to Frankfurt, but everything turned out to be so chaotic that I didn't get to film a vlog after I got out of the interview, because after the interview I went straight into the city to do some sightseeing and then we drove back to Munich in the evening, so I didn't get to Munich until like midnight and I was tired and it was dark, so I didn't film anything. So here it is, I'm back in Munich now. As you can see, it's the same setting as the vlog before, but I want to tell you about how the interview went. And for every one of you who is going to attend a green card interview, maybe even with the same program, with the diversity visa lottery, I hope that my experience is going to help you a little bit. Maybe I can answer some of your questions. Also, feel free to ask me questions in the comments about my personal experiences. Obviously, I'm not an attorney. I can't answer general questions, but I can tell you what my impression is from my personal experience. So first things first, my green card was approved. I left my passport there and they said I should get my passport back with the visa stamp in about 7 to 10 days. So hopefully that's accurate. And then that means that at the end of August, it's beginning of August right now, I'll be able to enter the United States on a green card status. I actually brought a bunch of documents to the interview, but I ended up only needing the very basic ones, like the ones that are mentioned on the website. I didn't need any additional documents that they didn't list on the internet. So I know this is different at every consulate, and I think they even do this differently in the consulate in Frankfurt, depending on how many employees they have. But for me, for this interview, I had to go to 3 different counters. So the first one was right when I entered. I got a number when I entered, and then when I entered the actual waiting hall, the person at the entrance told me to just line up at the cashier counter. So I lined up, and this was a German employee, and she needed my passport, my waiting number, and my photo, only one photo, even though it says 2 photos on the website, but I really only needed one. And then she wanted me to pay the diversity visa lottery fee, which I'm not quite sure if this is the same for other green card processes. I think it's a different amount. For me, it was $330. At the Frankfurt Consulate, they don't take German debit cards, so they don't take EC-Karte, Maestro, but they take everything else. So they do take cash in dollars, cash in euros, or any credit card. So I personally paid with my German MasterCard. It's a credit card from Sparkasse, and that worked perfectly fine. I got a receipt, and that's actually all she wanted to see from me. I overheard, though, that the person before me in line actually needed to show his US travel docs registration confirmation. This wasn't my first US visa that I got, so maybe because I had that account at US Travel Docs for a few years now, maybe that's why they didn't need this from me, but you should probably bring it just in case. So literally just print out your account overview of US Travel Docs. Then I had to sit down and wait. And then I was called to a first counter, again with a German employee, and this person did like all the organizational things. So to him, I gave all my documents, which was my proof of education, in my case, the German high school diploma, which is Abiturzeugnis. I gave him the original and a copy, then my police certificate and a copy, birth certificate and a copy, and then he wanted to see proof of my financial resources, and I brought a bunch of different documents with me to prove that I can support myself, but really all he wanted to see was my total balance on my German bank account. So I had a printout that I printed out myself from my online bank account, and he didn't even, it was 2 pages, he didn't even look at the second page. He really just looked at the total balance, took a highlighter, highlighted it, and that was it. He was like, okay, you're fine. Then he went with me through all my personal information that was in the DS-260 to see if all of that was correct. So he had the DS-260 open on his computer screen, and he checked that my name was correct, my parents' names were correct, my date of birth was correct, my address in Germany, where the passport is going to be sent to, is correct, and then my address in the United States, where the green card is going to be sent to, was correct. So all of those things. He also had the results of the medical examination in front of him and told me that everything was fine and that my medical was approved, if you will, which was kind of surprising because I did it only like a week and a few days before my interview appointment, and I did it in Munich, and the Munich practice said that it usually takes about 2 weeks for the results to be sent from their practice to the consulate in Frankfurt. But apparently I was lucky and they already had the results, which was good, because if they hadn't had the results, they probably wouldn't have been able to tell me that my green card is approved. They probably would have just been able to say, if the medical is going to turn out fine, it's approved, but we can't say for sure yet. Finally, the employee also talked to me about my social security number, because in the DS-260 I had checked that I don't need a social security number because I already have one. But he asked me if I had my social security card with me, which I did because I was over-prepared. And there it says that the social security card that I got on my student visa on my F1 was only valid with some kind of proof from the university. So he said, since that's not going to be the case anymore on the green card, I don't need a new social security number because that's going to stay the same, but I do need a new card. So he, I think, changed that for me in the DS-260. So this was the first counter after the payments counter. And this one was actually the one that took the longest, just because it was a bunch of details that we talked through and he organized all the documents, etc. After that, I sat down again, and then eventually I was called to the last counter, and this was the counter where an American consular employee did the actual interview with me. It was a woman in my case. She was really friendly. The interview took place in English, but I actually have had experiences for past visas, for temporary visas that I've applied for in the past, that sometimes the interview takes place in German, depending on what the consular suggests, what your skills are like, etc. So in this case, it took place in English. I had to actually give an oath first that I'm going to say the truth and that everything in my forms that I filled out are the truth to my best knowledge. And then she really only asked me some pretty simple, almost rhetoric questions. I don't want to say that it can't be different in other cases. My case, I have to admit, is pretty simple because it's only me. I'm not bringing a husband, I'm not pregnant, I'm not bringing kids, I'm not divorced. So it's really just me trying to get the green card. At the actual interview, she had all the documents that the previous person had organized in front of her. She had my DS-260 open, and then she really just asked me things that were in the DS-260, maybe to see if I was saying the truth, maybe to just see if I am authentic, I don't know. So she asked me when I graduated high school, what I have been doing since graduating high school, where in the US I want to live, and then I actually checked the box where it says, have you ever been in the United States illegally? I checked that with yes, because I have. There was a misunderstanding. It's a complicated story, but back in 2017, I was on my J1 visa, which is the exchange student visa. I accidentally overstayed my J1 visa by 8 days. And they always asked me in the past with my non-immigrant visas, because overstays aren't a great thing with non-immigrant visas. But for this one, since it's now an immigrant visa, she really just said, oh, well, that was only 8 days. That's so irrelevant. That doesn't matter at all. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, she didn't even want me to explain it, which I had to explain it to other officers in the past, but this wasn't an issue at all. And then she said, congratulations, your green card was approved and you'll get your passport back with the visa stamp in 7 to 8 days. So yeah, I'm very happy about this, obviously. Eventually, she also gave me my original documents back, so your original certificates. In my case, it was my high school diploma, my police certificate, and my birth certificate. All of those you're getting back at the end of the interview, but they're keeping the copies. Also, both people at the two counters, the German employee and then the American employee, both of them asked me how many times I had taken part in the green card lottery. But I'm assuming that this was just a question out of interest, because I'm assuming they probably don't get many people who won the green card lottery there. It didn't seem like a question that was relevant in any case. In my case, I actually took part in it the first time and I won, so I was very, very lucky. So now for me, this means that I am going to wait until I get my passport, and then what you get at this point is really just a thing that looks exactly like a visa. So it's a visa in your passport, and with that, and with a sealed envelope that you get with your passport from the consulate, and with your X-rays that I got at the doctors in Munich, I have to enter the United States, and at the immigration, they're going to pull me out into secondary inspection, and that's when they're going to activate my green card. And then after this process of activating it, I will get the physical green card in the mail at my US address. So let's see how long that's going to take. And obviously I'm going to tell you how the activating process went, and I'm going to tell you how long everything took to get back my passport and so on. So yeah, I'll see you in a few weeks probably. I'm back in the US and I'm on my permanent resident status, which means that this is pretty much the end of this journey. Everything got processed really quickly actually after the interview. So the passport with the visa stamp was in my mailbox on August 14th, so only 9 days after I had my interview in Frankfurt. This is what it looks like. So it looks pretty much just like any other visa stamp, any other non-immigrant visa. And together with the passport, the consulate also sent me this sealed envelope. Here's a picture of what that looked like. When you get that, you're not supposed to open it. You're supposed to bring it with you in your carry-on. So you're supposed to have your passport, this envelope, and then also your X-rays with you in your carry-on when you enter the United States, when you enter to activate your green card. I actually didn't need my X-rays after all, but the envelope and the passport you need for sure. So I flew back to the US on August 30th. My port of entry is what it's called, was Charlotte, North Carolina. So that's where my plane landed first. That's where I entered the United States. And every airport handles this a little bit differently, but at the Charlotte airport, I was supposed to line up with the visitors. So the normal visa line at the immigration. So I think I waited for about 45 minutes or so. And then at the counter, the immigration officer saw the envelope that I had in my hand, and she knew right away what was going on. She was like, "Oh, a new immigrant, welcome." And then at the counter itself, she only asked me a few questions about my previous visas, and she took my fingerprints, but then she sent me right away to secondary inspection. So they keep all your documents and your passport and hand it over internally, and you're supposed to walk over to that secondary inspection room. And I had been in secondary inspection before, and it can take really long. But on that day, I was really lucky, and maybe it's also about the airport. I don't think I had entered the US in Charlotte before, but I was the only one in secondary inspection. So I walked there, I sat down in the waiting room, waited for about 10 minutes maybe, and then the officer came up to me, and the officers didn't even call me out of there. They just walked up to me into the waiting room, handed me my passport, and the guy just asked me to confirm my address one more time, my US address, so that the physical green card would be sent to the right place. And then he only asked me what my plans were in the US. And then he said, "Welcome to the United States." So the activation process itself actually went very smoothly, and it was a lot quicker than I had expected. And they put a stamp right here which indicates that this visa is valid for a full year. So in case you have to travel again, leave and re-enter the country before you receive the physical green card, I would be able to travel with this visa stamp. So this replaces the physical green card until you actually get it. And they say that it can take up to several months for the green card to arrive at your place. But again, everything got processed pretty fast, and I was very lucky. I had the green card in my mailbox on September 27th, so not even a month after I activated my green card. This is what it looks like. So you get this little protection envelope with it. And they also send you a letter with some more information. And then this is what the actual green card looks like. So yes, it is green. And it's valid for 10 years. But they can always take it from you if you don't follow the rules. So for example, if I didn't even live permanently in the US, if I, for example, just decided to move back to Germany for 3 years and try to re-enter the States on my permanent resident status after not living here for 3 years, they probably wouldn't let me back in on that status, if that makes sense. But if you follow all the rules, it's valid for 10 years. And a lot of people have asked me what I'm gonna do now, if I'm gonna stay in the US permanently, and I'm gonna tell you guys the same that I'm telling all my friends and family. I don't know yet. I'm just gonna take it day by day or month by month, year by year. We'll see. In Bavarian you would say, "Schauen wir mal." So I'm just seeing what kind of opportunities arise for me. This is an amazing opportunity to have this green card, this permanent resident status now. So I'm probably gonna stay here for at least a couple of years, but life can't be planned. So I'm just pretty much going with the flow and seeing what life brings to me. By the way, this right now I'm filming with my new GoPro and my whole vlogging setup that I bought recently. If you're interested in what kind of equipment I'm using, check out the description below. There's a few links for the entire setup because it's not even that easy with a GoPro. You need to buy a lot of extra stuff. So I hope this was helpful for those of you who are going through the same process or a similar process. Feel free to ask me questions in the comments below. I'll try to answer them. I'm not an attorney, of course, but I have spent a lot of time these past few months researching this entire process and the DV lottery. If you like what I'm doing, subscribe to my channel. Usually I do different videos. Usually it's more about German-American culture differences, but I thought this is something that I wanted to put out there too, because I was really thankful for every piece of information and experiences that people shared on this whole process on the internet when I was preparing for this. So yeah, also follow me on Instagram, and I hope I'll see you next time. Tschüss!